Hi guys, and welcome to a new episode from the world of true horror. Before we start, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit like, press the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell so you get every new story. Believe me, the story you are about to hear today is unlike any other story. Today we won't be talking about ghosts or evil spirits from another world. No, true horror, the kind that makes you lock your bedroom door before sleeping, doesn't always come from another world. Sometimes it comes from a human, an ordinary human, someone who works at a car company, goes home every day, talks to neighbors, smiles, but inside him there is something dark, something unnatural. Something that drives him to climb building walls in the dead of night, enter through windows, and stand beside his victims' beds while they sleep. But to understand the monster, we have to go back to the beginning. Russell Morris. Johnson was born in 1948 in Ontario, Canada. From the outside, he seemed like any normal child. But from a young age, something was different. He grew up in a household that was reportedly strict and controlling, with a distant father and a mother who struggled to understand him. Russell was often isolated from other children, and his peers described him as quiet, withdrawn, and peculiar. As he grew older, he began to show early signs of deviant behavior. He was fascinated with voyeurism and would spy on neighbors, peering through windows. This early compulsion, combined with a growing fascination with control and power, planted the seeds of the obsession that would later consume him. By adolescence, Russell developed obsessive-compulsive tendencies. He needed order, control, and predictability in every aspect of life. These traits were not inherently criminal, but in Russell, they merged with darker urges. He began experimenting with fantasies of dominance and power over women, which escalated over time. In 1969, at the age of 21, Russell entered a psychiatric hospital. He was diagnosed with sexual deviance and obsessive-compulsive disorder, but was released without sufficient treatment or supervision. The system failed to monitor him, leaving him free to explore and act on the dangerous impulses growing inside him. This combination of childhood isolation, early voyeuristic tendencies, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and untreated sexual deviance created the perfect storm. By the early 1970s, Russell had become a man with the outward appearance of normalcy, working a regular job at Ford Motors, smiling at neighbors, interacting socially. But inside, he harbored a voice urging him to act on his darkest fantasies. That voice, combined with his compulsions and a craving for control, would drive him to become one of Canada's most notorious serial killers. And tonight, we will experience every terrifying moment his victims went through. Get ready, because what comes next, you will not forget easily. It all began in the fall of 1973 in the city of London, in Ontario, Canada. A quiet city. Good people, ordinary life. No one imagined that a monster was moving in the dark. Mary Catherine Hicks, a 20-year-old university student, a beautiful girl, ambitious with her whole future ahead, she lived alone in a small apartment near the university. On a cold autumn night, Mary returned home after a long day of lectures. She had dinner, watched some TV, then decided to sleep early. She locked the door, closed the window, put on her comfortable pajamas, and lay in her small bed. Everything was normal. But someone was watching her. Russell Johnson, a man in his late 20s, large build, strong muscles from weightlifting. He worked as a clerk at Ford Motors. From the outside, his life was completely normal. But inside him, there was a voice whispering to him. A voice telling him, "Go. See her. Enter her room." And that night, Russell decided to listen to the voice. He stood under Mary's building, looked at the windows, counted the floors, identified her apartment. Then he began to climb. Imagine the scene. A large man in the dead of night, climbing the brick wall of a building, his hands gripping tiny cracks, his feet searching for any foothold. Silence. Terrifying silence. Only the sound of his heavy breathing. He reached the window. It was locked, but not for long. He pushed it gently and it opened. He entered the apartment. The room was dark, but his eyes quickly adjusted. He saw Mary sleeping in her bed, calm, peaceful, unaware that a monster stood beside her. Russell stood next to the bed, watching her for long minutes, listening to her breathing, watching her chest rise and fall. Then he reached out. Mary woke suddenly, felt a hand on her neck. She tried to scream but could not. The hand was strong, very strong. She tried to resist. Her legs kicked in the air. Her hands tried to push his hand away from her neck, but it was useless. In less than 2 minutes, Mary Catherine Hicks, the girl with dreams and a future, was dead. Russell left her in the bed, arranged her body carefully, covered her with a blanket, and climbed out the window just as he had entered. When her friends found her the next day, they thought she had died in her sleep. No signs of violence, no struggle. Doctors suggested it could have been due to prescribed medication interactions. And no one knew the truth. But Russell Johnson did not stop. The voice inside him grew louder. The desire became stronger. This time he decided to travel to another city. Guelph, a small city about an hour's drive from London. His father lived there. Russell visited from time to time. But this visit was different. In the fall of the same year, 1973, Russell found his second victim. Alice Ralston, 42, a widow living alone in a quiet apartment. A kind woman who loved helping neighbors and lived a simple life. But one night, Russell saw her and decided she would be his next victim. The same method, the same technique. Climb the wall, enter through the window, stand beside her bed, and strangle her while she slept. Alice tried to resist, tried to scream, but no sound came out. Moments later, she was dead. When she was found, doctors said she had died of arteriosclerosis, a natural death. The cause remained considered natural until Johnson confessed. And Russell returned to his normal life, went to work, talked with colleagues, laughed. Nobody suspected him. But the voice inside him did not stop. In the summer of 1974, Russell killed Eleanor Hartwick, 27, a young, beautiful woman living in London. Same method, same ending. A month later, in August 1974, Russell returned to Guelph. This time, the victim was Doris Brown, 49, a mother with a daughter named Laura. Doris lived on the second floor. On the night of August 8th, Russell climbed the wall, entered through the window, and stood beside her bed. Doris woke, saw him, tried to scream. But Russell was faster. He grabbed her neck with his strong hands and strangled her. When her daughter Laura entered the room in the morning, she found her mother dead in bed, arranged, calm, as if sleeping. Laura called the police. Officers arrived. Doctors examined the body and said, unexplained natural death. And no one knew that a killer moved freely in the streets. But the most horrific story was yet to come. New Year's Eve, 1974. A night meant for celebration, joy, hope for a new year. But for Diane Betts, 23, it was her last night alive. Diane was engaged. Her fiancé's name was James Britton, They loved each other very much and were eagerly awaiting the new year. On December 31st, Diane returned home early, tired, and decided to sleep so she could celebrate with James the next day. But Russell Johnson knew her location. Why? Because his ex-wife lived in the same building. He had visited from time to time, saw Diane, and decided she would be his next victim. In the dead of night, while people celebrated and fireworks exploded, Russell climbed the wall, entered Diane's window, and stood beside her bed. Diane woke, saw him, tried to scream. But Russell was ready. He grabbed her bra and wrapped it around her neck. Diane tried to resist, tried to hit him, tried to push him away. But it was useless. Russell was stronger, and in minutes, Diane was dead. But Russell did not stop there. He tied her hands behind her back with a nylon stocking, then sexually assaulted her after death. Then he left her in the bed and walked away. In the morning, James Britton went to check on his fiancée. Knocked on the door. No answer. Knocked again. Still no answer. Worried, he entered the apartment and the bedroom. He found Diane, dead, bound, sexually assaulted. James broke down, screamed, called the police. This time the police realized that a serial killer was moving through the city. But Russell Johnson was not afraid. On the contrary, he felt strong, in control, smarter than everyone. The voice inside him grew louder than ever. The years passed, 1975, 1976, and Russell was still free. Went to work every day at Ford, talked to colleagues, laughed with them, told jokes. No one imagined that the man with a large build and calm smile was the same monster climbing buildings at night. But inside, something was changing. The obsession became stronger. His obsessive-compulsive disorder controlled him more and more. Everything had to be organized. Neat, clean. And this made him change his method. April 1977. Russell lived in a regular apartment in London. Above him, on the next floor, lived a girl named Luella Jean George. Luella, 23, beautiful, smiling, loved life, lived alone on the 4th floor. Russell knew her, saw her every day, greeted her in the stairwell, smiled at her. She responded politely, unaware that he was planning to kill her. On the night of April 15, 1977, Russell decided the time had come. He waited until 2 a.m., left his apartment, stood beneath the building, looked at Luella's balcony, and began to climb. The wall was smooth, difficult. But Russell was strong. His weightlifting muscles allowed him to climb easily. He reached the 4th floor, reached the balcony. The door was locked. But Russell would not give up. He pushed the door hard. The glass shattered. The door opened. Luella woke at the sound of breaking glass. She got up, saw Russell enter from the balcony, tried to scream. But Russell was faster. He ran to her, grabbed her hair, threw her to the ground, began to strangle her. Luella tried to resist, tried to hit him, tried to push him away. But it was useless. Russell was stronger. In minutes, Luella was dead. This time, Russell did something different. He removed her jewelry, her underwear, put them in a plastic bag, and threw the bag in the trash between his apartment and Luella's. Why? No one knows. Perhaps to keep a memento, or maybe his OCD compelled him to dispose of evidence. But this was his biggest mistake. 3 months after Luella, in July 1977, Russell decided to kill one last time. This time, the victim was very close to him. Danya Feldbaum, 22, lived directly above Russell's apartment. Danya was quiet, kind, helped neighbors. She would greet Russell whenever she saw him. He smiled at her, all while planning her death. On the night of July 16, 1977, Russell went up to Donya's apartment. The door was locked, but he knew how to open it. He entered and went into the bedroom. Donya was sleeping, calm, peaceful. Russell stood beside her bed, watched her, then reached out. This time, something different happened. Donya woke, saw him. Before he could strangle her, she screamed. Russell panicked, not expecting this. In a moment of frenzy, he drew a knife from his pocket and stabbed her. Donya was stabbed repeatedly. Blood began to flow. Her screams stopped. Donya was dead. But Russell went insane. Blood was everywhere, on the bed, on the floor, on his hands, on his clothes. His obsessive-compulsive disorder could not handle the scene. He began cleaning. He moved Donya's body, put it in the bathtub, washed it with water and soap, cleaned the blood from her body, then placed her back in the bed, covered her with a blanket, arranged her as if sleeping. Then he removed the bloodied sheets, put them in the washing machine, cleaned them. Then he went to his apartment and called the police. I heard screaming from the apartment above me. Could you come check it? He said. Police arrived, found Donya dead. But this time, something was strange. The apartment was clean. The sheets were washed. The body was arranged in bed. Investigators realized something unnatural, started questioning neighbors. One neighbor said, Russell Johnson, the man who lives below her, he called you. Police looked at each other and decided to interrogate Russell. Russell Johnson was arrested in July 1977. At first, he denied everything, said he did nothing. He just heard screams and called the police. But investigators were suspicious. They searched his apartment, found evidence, found jewelry not belonging to him, found women's clothing, found a knife with blood traces. Then they found the plastic bag in the trash, with Luella Jean George's jewelry. Faced with evidence, Russell confessed after hours of interrogation. But the confession was worse than they imagined. He said he killed 3 women, Diane Betts, Luella Jean George, and Donya Feldbaum. Investigators suspected more, pressed him further. Russell confessed to the rest. He admitted killing 4 other women, Mary Catherine Hicks, Alice Ralston, Eleanor Hartwick, and Doris Brown, and said he sexually assaulted 11 other women, but did not kill them. Investigators were shocked. How could one man do all this, and nobody notice? Russell told them something else, something terrifying. If I had been treated properly, I wouldn't have killed those girls. It turned out Russell had been in a psychiatric hospital in 1969, 4 years before the first murder, diagnosed with sexual deviance. But doctors released him, didn't treat him, didn't monitor him. 7 women, dead because of this. Russell Johnson was tried in 1978. At first, he pleaded not guilty, said he did not kill these women. Later, he changed his plea. He said he had an uncontrollable urge to rape and kill, said he could not control himself, that a voice inside him told him to do it. Doctors examined him, found he had severe obsessive-compulsive disorder and serious psychological disturbances. The court ruled him not guilty by reason of insanity. What does that mean? He would not go to prison. He would be confined to a psychiatric hospital indefinitely. Russell was sent to Waypoint Center for Mental Health Care in Penetanguishene, Ontario, and he remains there to this day. Imagine, Russell Johnson, a serial killer who murdered at least 7 women and assaulted 11 others, still alive. He is now around 77 years old, still confined in a psychiatric hospital. Every year, he requests more freedom. He claims he is treated, claims he is better, wants more liberty. In 2012, the Ontario Court of Appeal denied his request to be transferred to Brockville Mental Health Center. In 2016, he requested outings to go shopping at Walmart. Imagine that. A serial killer asking to go shopping. But the court refused. Families of the victims oppose every request. Laura Brown, daughter of Doris Brown, murdered in 1974, attends every hearing, stands in front of the judges, says, "I will not allow the man who killed my mother to walk free." Other families do the same. Every year, every request, they say no. Russell does not give up. Doctors say he is treated, taking chemical therapy called Lupron to reduce testosterone, making him less dangerous. But is that enough? Can we really believe a man who killed 7 women, assaulted 11 others, climbing walls at night like a monster, can be safe? We must ask ourselves an important question. What makes a human do this? Russell Johnson was not insane in the traditional sense. He worked, talked to people, lived a normal life. But inside, there was darkness. Doctors said he had obsessive-compulsive disorder. Everything had to be organized, clean, arranged. That is why he cleaned his victims' bodies, arranged them in bed, washed the sheets. But this is not enough explanation. Many have OCD and do not kill anyone. There is something deeper, something darker. It makes us wonder, is evil real? Are there people born evil, or is it society that makes them this way? Russell had been in a psychiatric hospital in 1969, 4 years before the first murder. If he had been treated properly, monitored, prevented from leaving, 7 women could be alive today. Mary would have graduated. Alice could have lived with her children. Eleanor would have pursued her dreams. Doris would have watched Laura grow up. Diane would have married James. Luella and Donia would have lived peaceful lives. But none of this happened because a monster moved in the dark, climbed walls, entered through windows, stood beside sleeping victims, and strangled them. The investigation into Russell Johnson's crimes was the most expensive in Ontario's history. Cost over $30,000, a huge sum in the 1970s. But the real cost was lives. 7 women dead, 11 others psychologically traumatized, families destroyed. Laura Brown lived in fear her whole life. James Britton's dreams were stolen. Other families carry stories of loss, grief, and horror. Even after all these years, questions remain unanswered. Has Russell Johnson really been treated? Doctors say yes, families say no. Can we trust that a monster like him could change? A monster who climbed walls, entered windows, stood beside sleeping victims, strangled them with cold blood. Can he truly be safe? Chemical therapy reduces testosterone. But does it stop the desire to kill, or just sexual urges? Russell killed for control, for power, to feel stronger than his victims. Are there more victims? Russell confessed to 7 murders. But is that all? Investigators suspect more. Women who died under mysterious circumstances in the same period, same area, same method. But Russell refused to confess. There may be others, unknown forever. Women died in their sleep, deaths initially considered natural. If Russell had not confessed, their stories would remain unknown. And the terrifying truth, Russell Johnson is not unique. Many serial killers lived ordinary lives, jobs, friends, families. No one knew they were monsters. Ted Bundy, handsome law student, killed at least 30 women. John Wayne Gacy, respected businessman, killed 33 young men. Dennis Rader, church employee, killed 10 people. The list goes on. Could a monster be living next to us? Your neighbor, co-worker, or the man you see on the subway? Could he be smiling at you while hiding darkness inside? Russell Johnson's still alive, still confined in a psychiatric hospital, still requesting freedom every year, and the victims' families are still fighting to keep him locked away. But the question that keeps me awake at night, if Russell is ever released, will he kill again? Doctors say no. They claim he has been treated, that he is less dangerous. But can we really trust that? Can we believe that a monster like this could change? In the end, this story is not just about Russell Johnson. It is about the evil that lives inside humans, the evil we cannot see, the evil hidden behind a smile. It is about the victims who died and those still living in fear. It is about the questions with no answers and nightmares that never end. And now, as you sit and listen, think with me. If you were Mary, Alice, Eleanor, Doris, Diane, Luella, or Donna, if you were sleeping in your room and suddenly felt someone beside you, if you woke up and found Russell Johnson standing next to your bed, what would you do? The story is true. Russell Johnson is still alive. His victims are dead. Their families are still suffering. If this story scared you, made you think, or made you feel real horror, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to get every new story from the world of true horror. Share the video with your friends to remind them that monsters are not always in movies. Sometimes they live right beside us. And tell me in the comments, do you think Russell Johnson should remain locked away forever? Or do you believe he has truly been treated and deserves a second chance? I want to know your opinion. And always remember, before you go to sleep tonight, lock your windows well, because there are people climbing walls, watching from the shadows, waiting, and sometimes the monster is right next to you.